Everything we know, the entire universe, might just be a simulation running inside a supercomputer. In this dream world of the imagination, anything is possible. Join us on the Simulationist podcast as we explore our culture of simulation.
Hello everybody, welcome to the Simulationist podcast. This is the 197th iteration of the show, recorded on the 12th of June, 2016. My name is Josh Trelevin, and with me as always,
co-host extraordinaire, Ryan Kirkby.
The extraordinaire.
I don't know, man. Just keep it French. I am l'extraordinaire.
Yeah, just like last week, you were posting on Facebook about how much you hated French.
No, it wasn't about how much I hate French. It's about how much I hate people complaining about math compared to its relevancy, as opposed to people complaining about taking French classes.
But you did introduce yourself with a French word.
Yes, yes.
So.
Well, that's the thing, though. It's like I don't complain about the French classes I took.
Okay.
For those of you out there, I had made the observation that I keep seeing stuff about people like mentioning about like, oh, there's another day where I didn't have to use any algebra outside of the math class now that I'm finished it. And I guess this would be a bit of a reoccurring mean. I mean, how often are you going to need to know trigonometry?
Yeah.
Outside of like actual fields.
Yeah, people complain about this. Yes.
But I don't hear as many people complaining about their foreign language classes that they had to take back in high school.
Okay.
And yet math has much more of a daily relevancy to the average person than any secondary language.
Yeah, any given language, I suppose.
Unless, of course, you are in a part of that world where that language is suddenly become the predominant one.
Yeah, I mean, it's always, well...
I don't consider any knowledge, any learning to be worthless.
Yeah,
I just find it odd how many people are willing to complain about not using an aspect of math when math is like a daily occurrence for almost everybody, but not complain about needing to learn French when like the most a person is going to need for French on a given day is to like read the side of their like a cereal box when they're having their breakfast cereal.
Yeah, I mean, if you're us living where we live in the world, which is a sort of monolingual
the far side of Canada,
section.
Where Quebec does not have much sway. Admittedly, right here on Victoria, there is much more of a demand for the Asiatic languages than for the French.
Asiatic languages, Mandarin, Japanese.
Mandarin,
Filipino,
Japanese, Filipino,
Taiwanese. No, wait, Taiwanese is
Korean.
They speak Mandarin. They speak Mandarin in Taiwan, I think.
They speak a lot of language in Taiwan. It's actually a very diversified language portfolio.
Thai, Vietnamese.
But yes, it's, there's much more of a relevancy for any of those languages here than French is.
Yeah.
And so, it was just an observation
Punjabi,
I posted up onto Facebook
Hindi.
as to like why do people complain about like not needing to use some aspect of math when they're not really using French for much longer stretches of time.
Okay, yeah.
And despite the fact that I put myself in that position, I hold nothing against the French language, aside from its use of gendered pronouns, which I find to be very irritating. But that's not just French. That's many languages.
Yeah, but I guess the point is, we don't necessarily pit school subjects against each other. I mean, in an ideal world, we would have funding for every subject and students...
Maybe not every subject. I recall sewing class back when I was in grade 8 that I would be quite happy not having funding for.
Because when in your daily life do you ever use sewing? Actually, I don't. I have a...
Don't get me wrong, I do think sewing
but...
is a very useful skill to have. I just don't think it's worthwhile enough to devote an entire class to it. I think it could be rolled up into some sort of things you'll need to know in real life scenario for a class. Okay, here's what a mortgage is, here's how you do your taxes, here's how to sew with like a button back onto your shirt.
Yeah. I believe
roll that all into one
they've
massive
attempted to sort of do things like home economic, home management classes. I don't know how... Home economics, I think, is still a thing. I'm not sure if it's still one class or if they've divided it up.
Sadly, home economics tends to be some sort of code for cooking.
Okay. Yeah, so they
Which
might...
I think is a very useful skill. Because you should be using your cooking skills at least as often as, say, math skills. Or at least some serious math skills. In that, it's like at least a daily occurrence. I mean, otherwise, like where are you getting your food from? Are you just like buying it at a fast food place, or like where's the where are your cooking skills? Like why aren't you using them? Have some fun with it.
And it's funny, supermarkets actually deliberately take advantage of your brain's inability to rapidly process like kind of fractions and divisions. They're like, oh, 3 for 763, and you're like, okay, I mean I could do that if I had a calculator, but I'm not gonna. Or I could even do it in my head if I sat down and like rounded things up and just moved things around in my head, but I'm not going to do it.
It's about 233.
Yeah, there you go.
Just round it out.
You had enough
700 is 600 plus 100. 1 is 1/3 of that, so that's 66. And then you got 2, so it'll be 2 and 33.
Yeah, but I'm not going to do that for every... Well, maybe I should do that for every item.
I won't lie. For about $1.25 at your local dollar store, you should be able to buy 4 notepads. So combine that with a mechanical pencil, and you can work out some math and get some real good price savings.
Bring a notepad with you.
The smart shopper is the better shopper. A customer who is conscious of their decision-making process winds up being a more satisfied person, in my opinion.
Okay.
They're happy with what they've bought, and they know why they got what they got, and they know that they got the best deal for what they got, and thus you have greater customer satisfaction. So this whole bit about confusing them with different numbers and like so many like unrounded grams out on the stuff, I think does not actually help for the customer satisfaction.
So you think they're taking the wrong tactic then?
Then again, I also think ending everything in 99 is a bad tactic too.
Yeah.
Hey, look at this. It's, like, buy this television. It's only, like, $899. Nobody's thinking it's $800. It's $900.
I have met people, like, I had a friend back in high school. We were talking about buying a video game, and back then video games were $50 to $60.
So $59.99.
And, like, yeah, he's like, oh, it's only $50. Like, $59.99. That's, to us, especially in high school, that was a pretty big...
That's a 16% difference.
There you go.
Woo! Good math. But that's the thing is apparently it looks cheaper when it begins with that lower number. But I'm like, that might work for some lower end stuff. It's like, oh hey, it's only like $1.99. It's like, I'm not even spending $2. I'm spending only $1 on it. But when you get up for the big stuff, like when you're buying a car or you're buying like a large TV sort of thing, like bigger ticket things, are you really, making people like think it's a much lower number? Like if anyone's buying this big ticket purchase, they should be doing some very careful math going in there. Especially cars. Cars are something you don't just go in and buy. You got to put down payments. There's more, there's like car loans for that sort of thing.
I'd say yeah, with a car you almost who does this? But you should have like your own little spreadsheet with all of your different options on it.
You should, and anyone who doesn't, I'm going to give you such a finger wagging.
Yeah, because there's how many different dealerships in any given city. Like sure, okay, like if you there's high pressure sales tactics, and if you go into a dealership, that you might not learn everything that you could learn, but yeah, if you live in a city with like multiple dealerships, you should be able to compare what everyone is doing for you and be able to come to a good conclusion about what's a good deal and what isn't.
And when you do so, you're a smart shopper and you will have greater satisfaction.
Yeah.
But, apparently I am the odd man out on that sort of scenario, because if that was really how things worked for a majority of the people, they'd switch to make it happen.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying the reason we have all of these little, tricks and stuff and that is because most people feel like they don't have enough time to sit down and, work it out and analyze it.
Like, I'm not going to work out the difference in prices of, like, candies. Like, well, let's see, this is 85 grams of chocolate with nougat and all that for, like $1.50, and this one here is, no, I'm not going to work that out for candy bars, but for a larger ticket item, like I'd be foolish not to.
Yeah. Now, I don't even know this, but it just occurred to me, like, can you hire a person or even, there's Consumer Reports, there's, different agencies that sort of track what's, especially with big ticket items, cars and houses and things. But like, is there a service that you can subscribe to? I guess that would just cost more money. But like that actually helps you, I don't know, tells you what your best options are and stuff like that?
You can, but yeah, as you said...
Or is that just an accountant? I don't know.
That'd be a specialized accountant. But yes, for most people it's not a cost-effective thing to subscribe to.
Maybe not, yeah.
In the end, you got to do it by yourself sometimes and make sure what you get is exactly what you want.
And this is why math is important.
Exactly.
Okay. But without French, you couldn't talk to, well, if you go visit a French place, or if you run into a French person, or if you want to use the
if you only
French
had
word.
half of, access to half of, like, your cereal box, you need French. 50% of the time.
Yeah.
Oh, I suppose our American listeners don't know what the heck we're talking about for that. Okay, for those of you out there, the boxes of stuff like cereal here in Canada have to have both English and French written on them. So like half the box will be English, half the box will be French. Because for some reason we really can't share all that well. Like we're not allowed to like try and combine it up into one, like double language, logo. So it'll be like, English on one side, French on the other, and never the twain shall meet.
Every once in a while you will see something like cereal, name of cereal, and then a cereal or something like that,
But most of the time it doesn't actually work that way. It's very, very segregated. It's one of the issues I also don't like about... a mandatory double printing. It
depends on the company, too, because if it's one of these companies that's sort of North America-wide, and if they're also doing stuff for the U.S., then they will also do like an English-only version for the U.S., maybe even a Spanish version for Southern U.S. or Mexico, so, yeah, you might have multiple
artistic designs all the way around.
Designs for each. I mean, that's the other thing they do. In different countries, they will have, like different colors will go together. It'd be like, oh, well, in this country, this color means luck. I guess in China, red is really big. Red, everyone likes things that are red.
Well, so there's a difference. Here in North America, black is seen as being like a somber color because it's a color you wear to funerals. But you head over, on the other side of the Pacific Rim, and white is what you wear to funerals. So, you see a person, walking, and they're dressed all in white. For us, that looks like a snappy dresser. For them, it's like, oh, who passed away?
Oh, yeah.
Whereas over here, you see someone all in black, it's like, oh, you must be goth or in mourning. Over there, they're like, man, that is stylish.
Or you're a roadie.
It could work either way. But, yes, we actually have a bit of a news bit this week.
Well, we wanted to talk about the Warcraft movie.
Yes. It's getting mixed reviews, but the way the reviews are mixed is very interesting. Uh-huh. Apparently, for those out there who have never played the games, either the regular Warcraft or the World of Warcraft, it's a boring, weird kind of movie, and it's getting bad reviews amongst the critics for that sort of thing, because very few of them have played.
Yeah.
But for those who have played, know the lore and all that stuff, it's a fascinating, wonderful, epic movie. So I guess it's kind of like a shibboleth as to who was, really, being a member of the Warcraft family.
Would you call it like fan service or?
I'll call it niche because it's, although I guess it's trying to appeal to everyone, who really gets it are the fans of the series.
Yeah,
which
so that
would make sense, right?
That's a bit different from what we saw with the J.J. Abrams version of Star Trek.
Yes, where it was trying to get everyone to appeal to it. I think some of the more hardcore nerds wound up getting really angry about it.
I think Star Wars actually struck a very good balance between appealing to old versus appealing to new. Episode 7, that is. Episode 1, 2, and 3, I don't know what was going on there. But yeah, Episode 7 was a very...
It was telling the pre-story about the fall of the Galactic Senate. Did you not follow?
Yeah.
There were pod races, man. Come on.
So it should have been appealing to insiders and to fans. But I actually think what George Lucas what his goal setting out to do with Episode 1 was he wanted to make a movie for new people who hadn't seen Star Wars. Like this was.
He wanted to make a different movie. He didn't
Yeah.
want to remake, Episode 4, 5, and 6 all over again.
Yeah.
Which is one of the biggest criticisms leveled against Episode 7. Was that it was the same as A New Hope. It was just different people and the same sort of plot all over again.
Yeah.
I'm fine with it. It was an entertaining movie.
Well, and if you look at it through this lens of which one are you appealing to, old fans or new fans, for the new fans, they have, if that's their entry into Star Wars, for some reason they pick Episode 7 to start with, but whatever. It's still a good movie because they haven't actually seen the Episode 4, so they don't know it's a
Why
rip-off.
have you not seen Episode 4? My daughter isn't 4 years old and she's seen Episode 4. She loves Star Wars.
I'm not going to judge people if they haven't seen a movie, but I think
a
they're
cultural
out there.
touchstone?
Yeah, but
Fair enough. I haven't seen Casablanca.
Maybe Star Wars
argue.
is a bad example, but Warcraft is slightly less of a giant property than Star Wars. Even though Warcraft is huge in the gaming world, as far as a film and
well, it's
general
not as
mainstream,
big, like
it's
World
not
of
as-
Warcraft, not as big as it used to be, but it
Right.
still has one of the best fan bases for monthly subscriptions in the MMO industry.
Yeah, but sort of compare that to just culture in general. It's still like a little fraction of, but it means it has recognition and stuff. So so it's a smaller version of that.
My own fear about this is that because people will now realize that there's a market for these movies, but they do tend to be niche for as to who will appreciate it, they may not get as big a budget as Warcraft has gotten. And thus
You
will
think?
not. Well, yeah. I mean, if it's going to be niche, they're not going to companies aren't going to shell out so much money to make it happen. Thinking, oh yeah, I got the next, Lord of the Rings here, Bobby.
Bobby?
I was going to be Baby, with a Hollywood accent.
Bobby?
Oh, there. I was trying to be a Hollywood mogul there for a second.
Is that a Hollywood mogul?
I was kind of trying to pretend, I got a stogie in my mouth.
That's the thing, Bobby.
Yeah.
Bobby.
I tell you what. No, but that's the thing is
That's
there
a
will
Hollywood
be
mogul.
a niche audience for a lot of things, and I think that's very good to try and appeal to a niche audience for a movie.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't want to appeal to everyone and try and make something that everyone will like, especially in this day and age when there's a group of people out there who will be able to find something to object to on anything.
Do you know much about Japanese animation and the Japanese film industry, animated film industry?
Not excessively, but I am aware of it.
Because it feels niche to me, and where I've encountered it, it feels like there's a certain very small
You want to see
segment
a high school comedy? We got a whole subsection of high school comedies for you.
Yeah, it seems like a very small subsection of North America has actually become familiar with anime or Japanese film in general, and I'm wondering what that is like over in Japan. If it's just like in Japan, is that just what everybody watches, or is it also?
I've been
niche
told
over
that
there?
a lot of the stuff is being put out on TV, so you get to choose whether or not you want to watch it.
Okay, it's just on TV.
So stuff like Cowboy Bebop, was just back in the day was running on the TV station. So you want to watch Cowboy Bebop, you flick it to the station at the right time, and you're watching it.
Okay, yeah. So it's just on TV. Yeah.
Although
I
I
should ask
imagine,
my uncle about
I
this.
imagine
He's a Japanophile.
Japanese Netflix has got to be an absolutely amazing variety if they're doing anything right.
Yeah.
It should have just like a cornucopia of different, like genres and subgenres to work with.
Yeah. Well, there's a topic. I asked my uncle a while ago. I wanted him to come on the podcast. You've met him.
I believe so.
And he was like, "Well, what could I possibly bring to it?" But now I think I've got an angle. So
you've got your in.
Yeah.
Your hook.
I'll see if I can get him to be another guest.
Dig it.
We haven't had a guest not since.
Well, we were going to have my brother, but he had to suddenly go back across the strait.
But even before that, wasn't he also the last guest before that?
He is our special recurring guest.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, does my daughter count for her reviews?
Sure. Yeah.
In that case, we had one not too long ago. Not like a full, length episode, where we have the guest.
Yeah, good point. Yeah. Oh.
Okay. So I guess we're about due for another one.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Just sidetrack.
But yes, it winds up being that Warcraft is a great movie if you've played the games. If you haven't played the games, you're not up on the lore. It might only be an average movie at best.
Okay, yeah, and I guess I haven't actually seen it, so I don't know.
I wonder if that's what like the Dungeons and Dragons movie was like. It was like I remember watching the movie.
You liked it?
I wasn't disgusted by it. I was a little disappointed. I thought it could have been so much more. Good actors, and all that in there. And I just thought, hey, I'll give you a C+.
Well,
didn't
the Dungeons and Dragons movies? It wasn't in any of the official settings, though, was it? Or was it Forgotten Realms?
It was not in any established setting, but I don't think that was actually big in or against it, honestly.
Because then, lore wouldn't make a difference. That's the problem with a D&D movie, is that D&D is this sort of a pretty generic system, and then you add in settings and stuff to make it. I kind of figured,
it was just a homebrew setting,
Yeah.
Which works well. Although, honestly, if they were really interested in doing anything for Dungeons & Dragons, they'd go back to doing like a TV series, like an animated thing, and then just work with a particular established setting to tell a story from there.
Sure. Or it'd be neat to see, like, a plane hopping setting, or, yes, like,
Oh,
weird.
God, I would love a Spelljammer cartoon.
But what if you had a D&D, a cartoon, let's say, and now that you bring up the cartoon, I'm like, oh, do they do the real life, like, the players too, or do they just, are we all in universe?
I think that would be one of the better examples of doing a cross, style format for is it animation, is it real life? And I've seen stuff before, on the various networks where they try to mesh them out one way or another.
Yeah.
Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego is a good example, where it'll start off, with the kid, and then it'll wind up being like done in animation for the rest of it.
Oh yeah. Wishbone.
Wishbone may have gone. I didn't see too much of Wishbone, sadly. That's more of my younger brother's stuff.
I think Wishbone might have been. Now that I don't think it was actually animated. They just put the dog in costumes for the flashback sequences of his stories.
But this, I think, example, you get like a decent amount, like a bunch of people at the table, and they'd be live action, and then the rest of it be animated as to the adventures of their characters. I think that would be a rather nice mesh between the layers and the styles.
That'd be kind of fun, yeah. Who knows, but yeah.
Hasbro is just down over in Seattle. Next time one of us is down there, we can go knock on a door and just beg them to try something.
Just write a little spec script and just get the spec script.
Well, so that's the thing, though, is like Hasbro is always on the lookout for, another way to make some, revenue stream. Their My Little Pony did amazing. Like, they never even intended for it to be that big. It's like, oh, maybe we'll get like 2-3 seasons out of it, and also like season 6, and there's a movie out there, 3 movies there, or something going into the theaters in a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
Hasbro's just laughing their way to the bank. And they're looking at their other properties, and like one of the best ones they could have is the Dungeons and Dragons setting, right?
Yeah. And the other thing
cartoon is still widely remembered as being a little wacky, but still a very well-loved series.
The other thing about Dungeons and Dragons is that a lot of other people have capitalized on either genericizing it or using other systems and doing their own like web series. This is Mungens and Maggins. This is no, it's not that at all. Yeah. Or even just pick another published setting like
White Wolf
or whatever, and then they've done like web series or podcasts. And probably our listeners, if they listen to this, they probably also listen to like D&D podcasts.
Something like Acquisitions Incorporated.
Yeah, that one. There's Critical Hit is another one.
Standard Action. They're a local-based one over in Vancouver.
Yeah, Standard Action. What is that other one? The Gamers.
Oh, I love that movie. I do believe Gygax did say it was the D&D movie.
Oh, that's cool. I'm glad he saw it.
Yeah, I do believe. Yeah, he's
came out before he died.
He's passing.
Yeah.
That's the thing is, it's nice to watch that movie, The Gamers, because it's a work of love as much as anything else. You can see the love and the entertainment put in there, and that's what made it such a wonderful, entertaining movie. is it had the same atmosphere as a good table. You know, you sit down with your friends, everyone has a fun time. You sit down with the gamers, everyone has a fun time. And I'm so happy I have a copy of it so that when my daughter gets old enough, I can show it to her and we can all have a fun time together. That's why I buy my movies.
But yeah, when you mentioned like a D&D cartoon being a weekly thing, I think what I would like to see is I'd like to see them sort of visit, setting of the week or something like that, or maybe setting of 2 or 3 episodes. So it's like, oh, this is Ravenloft for, kind of the way you do campaigns sometimes. Like,
yeah, just do a little adventure here and there.
Yeah, it's like, oh, now we're Ravenloft, now we're Spelljammer. Like, here's our giant space hamsters.
So in that case, would each character, have the same face as they're related to their player?
I would, now we're getting into the, writing the story now.
Would that be how you would do it to make certain that you have some sense of continuity between these adventures in the different settings?
Yeah, it's hard to say. Like, I've seen people do, like, I don't know if you've seen the Harmontown D&D. I don't think you've listened to Harmontown. But it's
on my list. It's a long list, but it's on there.
They used to play a little bit, 5 or 10 minutes of D&D in each episode, and then fans would do fan art of the show.
Oh, how nice!
And so they would draw the characters, and they would. I guess whoever did it was a pretty good artist or caricaturist, as you could call them. And they would put in the actors because it's semi-famous and famous people like Kumail Nanjiani, who was on. What is the show? Silicon Valley, that TV show,
yes.
And some other characters. So their faces are fairly well known. You can find if you look them up, you can find them. And so they put their faces on the characters. It's like, oh, here's a gnome, but he has like Kumail's face or whatever. So so they did that. But how much would I want to see that in like an ongoing
to maintain some sort of sense of continuity, aside from just like having the same voice actor?
I think voice actor I'd be fine with that. So I'm checking that box, the voice actor box. I don't know about the face. I think maybe not.
What if it depends on the role playing ability of the player in question? Like the one guy, he's not a good role player, so it's like always the same face, always the same voice. He plays a girl in the other one, and you got to get the voice actor do the girly voice.
Actually, this brings up another question, though, is before we can even get into that, though, is are we going for laughs, or are we trying to make something that feels like a Xena, not funny per se, but still a little bit silly, or are we going for even something that feels like very dramatic?
Full-end epic? I would love to see a full-end epic sort of style, but my experience at the table has always said... fun happens. Funniness and jokes wind up happening, and so you couldn't have it and not have it feel like proper D&D without at least a little bit of fun humor going on there. Not mimetic humor like you see in the world of Warcraft, where they'll throw like any person in sort of thing,
right?
For like a real world example. But I can definitely see the jokes and at least a little bit of silliness happening.
Although,
also if you wind up with Kender.
Yeah, okay, there's Kinder. I'll counter that, though. Well, I'll try countering that, though, because there is occasionally brought up in improv and a few other things is that basically the way to achieve sort of entertainment and laughs, sort of organic laughs, is that you do play it as, fairly straightforward and that we're really serious about our drama, and then the laughs, come sort of... by accident. So you're not striving to go for the laughs, but you're going to have funny moments anyways. So there's that. Yeah, that's probably how I would go. I would do a show that on the surface takes itself seriously, but then it would have occasional Buffy.
Yes, I think that would actually be a quite nice one. Yes, especially because the jokes in Buffy wound up being reoccurring and naturally forming from the state of the characters, as opposed to them throwing in meme references.
Yeah.
Okay, so the final dial to set on this thing here, goriness. Would you have it be like the original series, where oh no, and then just suddenly the bad guys get whooshed away, and then no one really dies?
Oh, wow.
Or do you want to
Okay.
have it like, we'll say the far end of the other part of the spectrum is something like the heavy metal movie, where they're stabbing and blood splurting out sort of thing when the fight calls for it.
Yeah,
But not to the level of where you get like a Saw or Hostel movie.
I feel like it almost has to be like a Game of Thrones type level of violence. Like Game of Thrones isn't, constant blood after blood, but when it happens, it's just,
So less dungeon adventures, but still, like, when time comes for the rogue to go all stabby, it happens.
I think, yeah, I think you get that same sort of, like in terms of the what Game of Thrones does, it makes you really like worry about characters dying, like, and yeah. So even though there is a lot of, it's funny, Game of Thrones has that balance too. Is a lot of death happens, but it doesn't desensitize you to it either. You're just, unless, well, some people are like can be a little bit.
I don't care if I like them, they'll die.
Yeah, exactly.
But I keep watching as everyone dies, who I like.
He like George R. R. Martin will kill characters that are beloved and that people don't want to die, and then
George R. R. Martin has no chill. He will kill for no reason whatsoever.
Well, I think it's really cool that he's able to do that.
It takes courage to do that sort of thing. I won't lie.
Yeah, so there's that dial. So yeah,
because you wouldn't have it be like blood spurting out everywhere. Like I guess like a bad anime sort of thing where you cut someone and there's like 55 pints of blood spurting out. Would that mean that the main physical combatant in the standard party is not like a warrior in armor with a big old sword, or even like a barbarian that's hacking and slashing everything, but instead is something like a dwarven wrestler who winds up pinning and wrestling his foes down? Less likely to you broke the spine or you snap a neck, so it's less gory, but still like, oh, you killed him.
Well, my picture of the archetypical D&D adventure is somebody who can sneak into a dungeon and sort of, I guess we have a kind of a roguish character who can do some backstabbing, something like that.
Well, the fun with 5th edition is you could have like a dwarven wrestler that, has the proficiency in stealth. So the orcs are just walking down their orcish hallway, and all of a sudden out from the back in the shadows comes this oiled down, nearly naked dwarf. Grabs one in the headlock and just pulls him back into the shadows. One by one, the greased up dwarf goes. He's a wrestler. You got to have it in the proper wrestling style, man.
I don't know if I'd have him all greased up.
Well, why not? I mean, he's not wearing armor. You might as well grease him up.
Couldn't you just like wear a cloak or something? That's what I'm picturing. Cloak and dagger.
So what you're saying is he's got to wrestle in the traditional sort of style. So he'd have like dwarven loincloth and a cloak. Like, what does he do in the off time? Like, he can't go into town. He's going to get arrested for all sorts of reasons. Like, I know exactly what you're up to. You're going to go around, flashing people. I know that kind of cloak anywhere. You get out of here, flash dwarf.
But it would be a human-sized cloak, so it would cover him all the way.
Well, then why even be, stripped down to the loincloth? That's his wrestling gear, man.
I think this is going off the rails. Like I thought I said something about the show having a serious tone, and then you're.
Well, that's the thing though. It's like a serious tone, but you don't want to have like overt, gory blood spurting everywhere.
Yeah.
So it would be much more towards the snapped neck, sort of shattered spine style, which would indicate a wrestler as opposed to someone who's like throwing a 3-length sharpened bar of metal at someone's skull.
Yeah,
you have to wrestle somebody pretty damn bad to have a skull start, popping, and ripping apart there.
I'm not opposed to having
you get your half-bark barbarian with the great iron
character, or a wrestler character as part of our group. But I guess the other one of the here's another thing about a D&D show is like the iconic things to D&D is that you have the 4 to 5 person party, and they each have a distinct personality and role, so that you get this showcase of personalities of different styles of attacking problems. So you have your rogue, your fighter, your wizard, your thinky guy, and your cleric who supports the others or gets prayers or whatever,
So
or
you'd be
variations.
the two physical fighters, the two magical fighters in this case. So the magical one would wind up standard-wise being the cleric and the wizard, with their different variations.
Sure.
And the two physical ones would be one melee, one ranged. So like a rogue could wind up being the melee, and then you have like a ranger type sort of thing.
Yeah. Well,
or switch the rogue out in this case for like a particularly well-skilled fighter.
And I suppose, like, depending on the mix we want to put, although, you know, earlier you brought up the show format of the possible new Star Trek format where it's a different story each time, so not necessarily following the same crew.
Before we did the recording, we were talking to each other about the new Star Trek series they're talking about that isn't going to be like concrete set down as like one potential storyline. It's going to be much more...
It's not the same crew the whole time.
Yeah, it's going to be much more episodic, much more like the Twilight Zone where you got different people for different bits and pieces.
Yeah, different stories in the same universe. Yeah.
The greater Star Trek universe.
So that would be an well, I don't know. Yeah,
so something similar for that. So you could mix it up as to who's got what for skills, and then if the fans really like greased up, dwarf, then I guess he's going to get featured more often.
I think like let's take this example. One of the things they thought about doing when they came up with Stargate, the television show, they called it SG-1 because it was, Stargate 1, the team that goes through the Stargate together. They're like a little unit of, what are they, 4 or 5 heroes?
Give or take, yeah.
I think. And then, so they all work together. They're like this, basically it's D&D with sci-fi, with weapons and stuff.
Yeah.
Sci-fi stuff.
D&D portal system. Yes, I could work out well for the...
Yeah. But I think one of the things they thought about doing, and they explored a little bit, but they also had, here's SG2, here's SG6, here's SG7, and they occasionally would intersect their stories, and you'd also see these other teams like going out. It's like, oh, that's how that.
It's not just these guys, but these are the ones we're primarily following. This is SG1. That's why it's part of the title. You're not watching Stargate SG7, man. Come on.
So you'd have your main sort of party that you generally follow around, and so probably your archetypes, and then you'd have some, because there's a lot of different, like, do you have a bard in your main party? Like, do you have what else is there? Bard, sorcerer. You already have a wizard, but sorcerers are different than wizards. So how does that work? And so on, stuff like that. Do you have a ranger? Like, you already have a fighter and a rogue. Do you need a ranger in there? Druid, like, and that would make a very big, well, depending, but yeah, pretty big difference to the party.
I wouldn't mind seeing it switch up like that. I think you could have a lot of fun doing it that way.
Yeah. Did you? Yeah, and well, I mean, web series like Order of the Stick has like.
Oh, I've been following that one. Yeah.
Yeah. So you
got
occasionally
like one of everybody, but they tend to split the party.
Yeah.
Up until the book, don't split the party. Then they learn maybe it's better if they're all together.
And then you occasionally will see, like, oh, here's a storyline of another party or group of 2 or whatever involving a druid, or here's some, like, other, like,
welcome to
shamans.
the desert area, like, here's some stuff going on with some lizard men.
Yeah. So,
get the local flavor going on.
Yeah. So, a D&D, television show could be, like, a lot of things, but I think we have some ideas of how we would do it, but, I mean, that's just how we would do it.
But until we get an opportunity to actually pitch the idea to Wizards of the Coast, not much is going to happen.
That's all right. Well, and hopefully, like, just, I don't know how interesting this was to listeners, but if they are listening, they're like,
well, I hope it's at least stirred their idea for what would they like to see for D&D, or if they don't, play D&D, for their game of choice, for their style. Because, like, even if you go away from, D&D White Wolf sort of thing, would you like to follow, like, the main characters presented in the storylines? Would you like just to see references of them in the other, like, NPCs mentioned? Or would you like to work with something effectively new and whole cloth where you keep the clan sort of thing, and then, like, no person that's been mentioned in the books actually happens, it's all new people? What style would you like to go for with GURPS? GURPS, the TV series.
I guess one other cool thing that you could have in a D&D television show is if you somehow ran it as the television show was not really a dungeon crawl per se, well, maybe a little bit of dungeon crawling, but the television show was sort of more of, I don't know about intrigue, but it sort of tells stories about the world and stuff. And then you hint that, like at the end of the show or something, you have a little ad say, like, do you want to play along in this world? Well, here's the place where there's this dungeon that adventurers are going in and out of all the time. And
not a bad notion.
So you tie in that way. Yeah. So you can have like parallel, like the people playing at home can be like, yeah, we're in the same universe as
So, going back though to the Warcraft movie.
Okay.
What I would really like to see is the list of who auditioned for what.
Uh-huh.
Did Will Wheaton try and audition for any roles in the Warcraft movie at all? Mia Kunis described herself as being like having an unhealthy addiction in the past to World of Warcraft. Mm-hmm. It has literally hindered her career opportunities because she, would not go off to the interview. She would want to go back and continue on her rating sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Did she audition for the stuff? Like, did anyone try to get her to audition for a role there? I mean, she has expressed like a very big interest. She knows the lore. She would be a wonderful shoo-in, like a well-trained actress that's popular and has played the game.
Sure, yeah.
I haven't heard anything about her actually being in there. Like is
she in? Are you saying she's in the movie?
I haven't heard a thing about her like that. Like I haven't heard anything about her like even trying to be in the movie.
I don't know. I think it's kind of in some ways it's their agents because people like Will Wheaton and Mia
Kunis and Will Wheaton better be slapping their agents, man, if they didn't try everything to try and get them in there. Because I mean, like with Will Wheaton's got to keep his nerd cred up at its absolute peak and being in the Warcraft movie. Yeah, man, have him as a cameo.
Well, didn't Will Wheaton? He did a keynote speech at, was it BlizzCon or?
I believe so.
Yeah. So they're aware of him. So I'm sure like. I don't know how that works. Yeah, I don't know that whole world.
You can give a keynote speech, but don't get on our screen, Wesley. Wes it up all over the place. Ew.
And it might have something to do with what other project he's got going at that exact time.
But with Mia Kunis, they should definitely have made an effort to get her in there, at least as something for a role. And her agent, this is something that, as I said, has actually hindered her career opportunities in the past. Wouldn't this be a nice way to effectively make up for it? Is by being in the movie, to help, keep her, in the spotlight when it hindered her before.
Well, it would be cool, but at the same time, there's also a risk when you do, because obviously as we know,
she's going to complain about the script? Like, the lore's all changed. She throws it at the director. I'm out of here.
In this case, apparently the lore was good. The lore was consistent with the
From
world.
what I've been told, I have yet to see it myself.
But there's a risk that, I think even Will Wheaton has been in a couple of stinkers. Or has he? I don't know. He hasn't been in that many movies. But occasionally, if you go for a movie that's like a genre movie,
a passion project,
like sci-fi or fantasy, you might end up in being in something that's not very good, and then that can actually hurt you.
Sometimes you gotta, as a thing from Futurama says, when push comes to shove, you gotta do what you love, even if it's not a good idea. Johnny Depp was in Tusk as the French detective.
Yeah.
Did that help his career out at all? Not particularly. But you know what? He wanted to. He wanted to be in that thing. He wanted a role in there.
Yeah. Well, I think his career is kind of going fine. He's going to be in another Pirates movie, right?
He is reprising the role, by the way, of the French detective in the next Kevin Smith movie.
Oh yeah, we should talk that.
Yoga hosers.
That's kind of news, or is it? I don't know.
Well, the trailer got released this
week. We knew it
week.
was coming out, but yeah, there's going to be another Kevin Smith movie,
which might wind up being this on the same litmus test as the Warcraft movie.
Yeah.
From what I saw of the preview, it looked like something I would definitely enjoy watching, especially with you. We got when it comes out on the movie thing, we're gonna have to watch it. Maybe not in the theaters, but make it like a night to watch a movie, then do our review on the podcast. But it, like judging on the comments over on the YouTube thing, it's clearly not for everybody.
All right. Yeah.
But then again, like Kevin Smith is making the movies for himself now, and if other people wind up enjoying it and it winds up turning a profit, yay!
Is his daughter the lead in it?
She's the co-lead.
Yeah. So there's two leads.
Yes. It's the two girls sort of thing. The other lead is Johnny Depp's daughter. Was it Lily Rose or something? And that's why Johnny Depp wanted to be in the Tusk movies. Like she's got a bit role there. He's happy to see his daughter pursuing interest in a movie.
Right.
And it's being as a movie a bit role, but you got to start out small. You can't just say, oh, I'm Johnny Depp's daughter, give me the starring role, right? You got to work your way up.
Yeah.
And so he was happy to see her doing that with like a director he could trust. To make sure that he gets the best out of it.
Here's the thing about Kevin Smith. I don't know if he's I'll say he's not the best director.
No,
he's very funny, and also the other thing I'll say about Kevin Smith is he is very like I don't know this because I haven't worked with him, but his sets are so much fun to be on.
Oh yes, and they look just immaculate for each one.
Well, and yeah, so what happens is you just have a lot of fun and a blast. That's why he can work with. Some people he doesn't work too well with, like Bruce Willis. But like a lot of the people that he works with, like really like, they'll take pay cuts or they'll whatever to work with Kevin Smith because they just like him, and it's just like being with friends. It's like hanging out. The movies aren't the greatest, but they're pretty good, and they're still very funny for, especially like, and they have their core audience who loves them, like including me, who's I really like Kevin Smith movies. Although I recognize that they're not perfect. But yeah, so there's something enjoyable about just being involved in a process where people really like what they're doing.
But here's the thing. Consider Johnny Depp not just as the actor, but Johnny Depp as the parent. His daughter's going to be in a movie, and who's the director? Well, it's going to be a guy that's not going to try and find a way to make sure her character is wearing belly shirts or anything like that. Is there a reason for her to be wearing the belly shirt as she's like a clerk in a store in Canada? No. Kevin Smith is not going to try and shoehorn that in.
Okay.
Kevin Smith is the kind of guy, director, that a parent can trust with their daughter.
I see. That angle had not occurred to me, but I suppose, you have a young child now, so you're thinking this way.
Like there are some directors that was like, the more skin we show, the better our sales will be. So let's try and make sure everyone's in skimpy, skin-tight clothing to maximize the sales and all that. Whereas Kevin Smith we don't really need that. She's a clerk in a store, so let's make sure she's wearing a clerk-style outfit for this. And then, bada bing, bada boom, that's all that's really needed. Make sure she gives a good performance, and everyone's happy. And I believe Johnny Depp as a parent can very much respect that. Yeah,
and in fact, I'm glad you brought that up because now that I'm thinking of it, I can't really think of too many of the, buddy movies that are two girls. Like, Jay and Silent Bob, I guess Superbad.
Does Thelma and Louise count?
No. Well,
that was buddy, but not really a fun adventure buddy sort of thing.
But yeah, you have a lot of movies starring like young guys and just going out and conquering the world. Two guys, Harold and Kumar,
or changing the world.
Dude, Where's My Car? Stuff like that. But yeah, you don't have an equivalent for young ladies. So I think that's really cool that that's being done. I'd like to see more than just Kevin Smith do this, but yeah, it's a good start. And yeah.
Well, if he does it and it winds up being, popular enough, people will say, hey, yeah, we can do like a girl. Oh, wait, Romy and Michelle's high school reunion.
Yep. Okay.
So that was a ways back now that I think about it. Oh, my.
So, yeah, you have a few, but I think there's definitely more
nowhere
of the
near
male
predominant.
version. Yeah.
No. Yeah. Wait, does the new Ghostbusters count as two of that? Because it's like a four-lady thing, so it's like two, like buddy-buddy?
It's its own thing, but it's in a
buddy-buddy buddy-buddy?
I mean, it is a similar idea in that, that we're breaking barriers about female casts and female leads. So yes, in that. So way.
It gets a notable mention, but doesn't count as a buddy because it's more than that too.
Well, it's not a buddy movie. What is Ghostbusters as far as genre? What is it? Action, adventure, supernatural, fantasy?
It's supposed to be like an action comedy.
Horror? It's not horror though. Horror?
No,
comedy?
The ghosts don't get that bad. Although there's some spooky scenes if you're young enough. Yeah. Like that librarian, when she goes all creepy psycho sort of thing, that was pretty spooky. For
and
a
the
young
end
kid.
is basically this sort of Cthulian, like, end of the world.
Well, not quite
very...
Cthulian, but in amongst there. But yeah, end of the world scenario.
Yeah. So it's a comedy, but also...
But there's a lot of action in there.
Yeah. Is Mars Attacks... Is, like, compared to Mars Attacks or Evolution,
Mars
for that
Attacks
matter.
is almost a satire
Yeah, okay.
of the alien invasion movies.
But it's comedy and sci-fi, I
Yes.
guess.
Comedy and sci-fi, but the comedy subtype is satire.
Yeah, and Evolution is comedy sci-fi, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, whatever Ghostbusters is, Evolution counts as, because it's a spiritual sequel.
Okay, yeah.
Ivan Reitman film, too, so you got that extra level of connection in there.
Okay.
But yeah, you don't see a lot of that, the girl, twin buddy sort of thing, and so that's nice to see. But yes, people like Johnny Depp will, wind up doing it because they want to do it. They're making enough money that they can do the thing that's, hey, that sounds like a really good role. Like when Tusk was out, we were talking like why was Justin Long, why did he go for that for the central role?
I think, well, I remember hearing this part of the story, at least the one he told, was that Kevin Smith, I don't know, sent him the script or whatever, and he read it, and he just loved the script.
Exactly.
Like, because it was so insane. Like, it's not that it
Yeah.
was great. It was just such a weird, like...
There is no way he's going to be offered a role like this in his acting career, conceivably. This is like it for that role.
Yeah.
And so, there just becomes a thing where it's like, you know what, this is so far off the beaten trail, and it's so far against the stuff that people keep trying to get me doing time and again. I would be a fool not to pass up my opportunity here.
Yeah, and it's just fun. Like, yeah, that's another thing.
I enjoyed the
As
movie.
I keep saying
immensely,
about Kevin Smith, he's just fun.
Yeah.
I'd like to find out, like, if one day, like, for some reason I got to work on a Kevin Smith movie, because the simulation got so big that
he's filming over here on the island, sort of thing. You hear us doing a name drop.
we have a podcast, so he, automatically there we're Canadian.
We get a
he
bro
likes
fist
Canadians.
sort of thing going on there.
Yeah, so for some reason I get to work with him, and then it turns out like he's no fun at all. It's like, oh.
You think I'm just a fat, funny Smith? No, man.
It's gonna be jokes around here.
You get to work, and you ain't gonna sleep for the next 20 hours. And no, it's not catered here. Spits on you too.
Okay.
Now the question is,
So
do you think you could somehow convince Kevin Smith to portray that as him as the director's style, and the whole funny Kevin Smith is just an act he puts on for everyone to make sure that everyone's laughing at the goofy Smith?
You mean like put that in a movie? Or?
Yeah. So like you've got your own movie, and so you get a bit where there's Kevin Smith directing a movie, and he winds up being this incredible hard ass, like Stanley Kubrick, 187 times filming the scene.
Yeah. Well, I think he did that for, was it Ben Affleck or somebody like as themselves in one of his movies, and like maybe
yes, Jay and Silent Bob Strike
jerk.
Back. It was they're a parodied version of themselves. We got a 187. Oh, I wasn't with a hooker last night. Oh, it wasn't me. Ben dead hooker being 187 being a dead hooker in Ben Affleck's trailer.
So yes, so that's been done, but we could do it again.
But they've never done that as Kevin Smith.
Yeah.
Kevin Smith's always been Kevin Smith and all this stuff.
That's true. When he ever appears as sort of a character called Kevin Smith, he's always super cool, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm a cool guy, and like I'm really nice." And,
well, it's a thing that has been done before. I remember Brendan Fraser punching out Brendan Fraser in the Looney Tunes movie. Because he played the role of the character he was, and then he played the role of Brendan Fraser, the smarmy actor, which is absolutely horrible to be around, sort of thing. So he winds up punching himself out.
Yeah. So this is a trope.
Yeah, it's a thing that's happened before, but could you? That's the thing. It takes a big person to make fun of themselves, especially for posterity on the big screen.
Yeah.
So is Kevin Smith? I guess there's a fat man joke here, but is Kevin Smith a big enough man? I think he is.
Maybe. I don't know.
But yes, that's
we'll have to have him on as a guest too.
We'll just ask him. Yes. But yes, that's enough tangents out of that one then.
Okay, yeah. The Warcraft movie. We're going to also watch it, even if we spent how much time talking about it, but yeah.
Well, the thing is, I just find it very interesting how the divide between good movie and bad movie divides out. Because you don't always get this clear-cut divide as to who would like a movie and who doesn't. And I have a hard time listening to critics reviewing stuff because like half the time it's like, you are not me and you are so far removed, you just don't get it. Well, or I just don't care. I'm sure there's many good movies out there, but I have no interest in watching another sports-based movie anytime in the foreseeable future.
That's a good point. Yeah, it helps if you're already a fan of something. I mean, I think on some level films are objectively good and bad, and that maybe fanboyism just puts a little bit of a blinder on you, so you don't actually, so you skip over some of the flaws in the movie because you're just so happy to have your thing. And in a lot of ways, I'd say that's fine because if you're having fun and enjoying yourself, I don't want to stop you from doing that.
Yeah.
So I don't want to say your movie's bad, but at the same time, I don't want people to continue making mistakes. So obviously, try harder. If this is, I don't know if it's objectively that bad a movie, but if it is, I would say work harder and try and make better movies. But it's already made now, so what can you do about it? Nothing. So.
But I do like the concept of a niche movie sort of thing where it's not meant for everybody, and they're not trying to aim for everybody. Like, I guess technically the Deadpool movie was. With its R rating, it was not meant for young kids, which has caused some issues on there. But it's nice to say, like, I want to make a movie like this for these people, which is what Kevin Smith does.
Yeah, exactly. I just thought of that. Like, Kevin Smith is very much for his audience. And I think in some ways that there really is nothing wrong with Kevin Smith movies in that sense that
if you're not a Kevin Smith sort of guy to watch his movies, please don't watch. It's not the kind of movie for you.
Yeah, and I guess a part of what's unappealing about Kevin Smith movies is that a lot of them are just gross and crass, and like they have fart jokes and poop jokes and stuff like that. So,
but they always seem to be done in the most endearing way for me.
I mean, I think they're super funny, but I think part of that is what turns off audiences and critics. And critics sort of realize that audiences aren't always going to be on board with that sort of stuff. So, it's part of what it is. But that's just one other aspect of it.
Which is one of the reasons I did like, Roger Ebert, for all the hassle he gave on some other aspects of things as to what qualifies as art and all that. He did review movies based off of what they were supposed to be. So if there was a movie that was, it was kind of like an adequate movie, but it was meant to be like a generic, like slasher horror thing, he'd give it at least an adequate rating because it was never supposed to be an Oscar gold-winning movie. It's just supposed to be a slasher horror, man. Just get over it. And so he was able to see that not every movie is for everybody, and that a movie can be, on the broadest of strokes, an adequate movie at best. But for the people who like this sort of thing, like, this is a great movie for them, and that's who it was supposed to be for to begin with. So if it's like you're not the fish in that pond, it's just not a great thing.
Yeah. All right, cool. Yeah. Should we quickly talk about just stuff that we've got up to?
Yeah, just a quick little overview for your fiction-based stuff.
All right, cool. Me first?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. This week do you remember last week you mentioned Cookie Clicker?
Yes.
So I was like, as soon as I got home and I was editing the podcast, and I was like, okay, I got to put up the links and stuff in the description. Okay, Cookie Clicker. Well, I'll look that up. I go to Cookie Clicker and I start playing it, and then So
you got sucked in.
Now I'm hooked on Cookie Clicker.
So I've got official apologies for you then. I did not mean to hook you up for such a game. But are you enjoying yourself?
Yeah.
And it's weird.
It's neat.
Yeah, for a game that's effectively like an idle game, it's surprisingly fun.
Yeah, so I think I'm in the trillions of 10 trillion is probably the most I've been up to.
Ooh,
10 trillion cookies. So yeah, I think I have 23% of all the achievements.
That's pretty good, especially for 1 week's time.
So I don't know how long it's going to take me to get 100%. I don't know if
I'll tell you when I get there.
Progression. What do you know? What percent you're at?
I'm just hitting the 90s.
90%.
Some of them are like, you need 300 of everything.
Okay.
And I'm only at about 200 something for the prisms, the high end stuff.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
But that said, I quite enjoy the storyline that goes, but only for those who are reading into what's going on. It starts off as something innocent, like, oh yes, I'm going to make some cookies, and it winds up with you, going through time and stealing cookies, and opening portals to like otherworldly dimensions, and then turning the universe itself into a cold, dark, uninhabitable wasteland as you turn like 90% of the mass of the universe, as well as all light, into more cookies.
It's a principle that, I've seen exemplified when I took improv classes and read a little bit about improv. They called it heightening, and there's certain improv games where, like, you do a little action and, like, you perform a little. It might not be anything at all. Like, you just move your hands in a little way, and it looks like something. So then you have another person on stage, and that person is, like, basically imitates that action but makes it bigger or makes it more, like, epic. But the thing is, you got to go back and forth for a little while. So you don't necessarily like make it as giant as you possibly can. It's like do that same action, but like add a little, a flair to it, or like make it more. And then the other person does, okay, now they try and imitate what you just did. And it can, sometimes it's very specific, like it looks like you're actually trying to mime something, like, oh, I'm miming reading a book, or I'm miming mowing the lawn, or something like that. And then that can turn, okay, if we figure out that we're mowing lawns, we can like get like a giant machine and like really pull on the cord or set up some dials and things like that and buttons, and then so I'm miming that, and then it switches to the next person, they heighten it, and then it heightens. So if you're creative and you do end up with stuff like, oh, go to another alternate universe. I don't know how you mime that, but yeah, and then open a time machine so you can mow more lawns. And
it's kind of like the old classic Looney Tunes bit of escalation.
Yes, yeah.
Where I pull a gun, I pull a bigger gun, I pull a cannon, I pull something. And next thing you know, you've got a situation where you've got like two giant guns, each of which is like circling the planet back and forth upon each other, sort of thing. And then someone pulls the trigger. Which in this case would wind up being, I suppose, the Graham-apocalypse, where all grandmothers fuse with the cookies to become one gestalt consciousness that winds up, scaring the bejesus out of everyone as things go really, really bad.
Yeah, so I like that. It's a fun, it's fun. It's fun. I don't know if I'm gonna that's the other thing. Like I close it. And like,
hey man, I closed it for like over a year at a time.
I closed it for I had my fun. I'm not gonna play it anymore.
I did save the thing, and then I tossed the save into a small file, so that way when I cleaned out my cookies, I could still go back to it later on.
Whoa, Cookie Clicker uses cookies.
Yeah, that's how it stores the information, in cookies. Well, what would you expect, man?
How did I not even make that connection?
Because the cookie in that case is technically invisible.
Yeah.
Although it would be nice if every time it's saved, you automatically got like one extra cookie.
Yeah.
As it makes a cookie sort of thing. But maybe only once per, so if it actually has to make a new cookie to store itself on there, you gain one extra cookie because that's the cookie it made.
Yeah. So I don't necessarily have any intention of going back. But I suspect that at some point I'll be like, I'll just check it out and just see what's going. See what.
How much have I made in the Oh no, wait, you don't have that yet.
I don't have offline production, so.
Yeah, you have to reincarnate for that to start happening.
Okay, well maybe I'll do that and get to the point where I have offline production, and then I don't really have to worry about it.
Well, that's the thing. You eventually spend enough points on it, you can get it so that you only really need to log in once a week. The rest of the week you're getting 85% production sort of thing going through that. So
I will say, one of the things I don't like about Cookie Clicker is it is the waiting game at a lot of times. It's just like you're hovering over your mouse, you're watching the numbers increase. You're like, okay, I just have to wait, calculate. Okay, I'm earning 5 million per second. I only have to wait 1,000 seconds till I can afford this next thing. I'll just sit here and watch. So 1,000 seconds. How many minutes? I don't.
Well, let's see, 1,000, it would be 6 divided by 100, or it would be the same as 50 divided by 3, about 13 minutes.
Yeah, so I was just sitting there, And I guess I don't sit for 13 minutes straight, but I'm sort of thinking, well, I can sit for 1,000 seconds. I can wait for 1,000. Like, how hard is that? Where I could be doing something productive for 13 minutes.
I won't lie. I did have to train myself on something like that to make certain that it's like, okay, I won't wait. I'll go do something else. And so I found, I had to teach myself to say, okay, I could get a chore done. I could go clean a little bit of this up and then come back.
Cookie Clicker might be extremely valuable for that because it's a little bit of in between. It's incentive to leave your computer. It's like, okay, now do something actually productive, and when you come back, you'll have more cookies.
Yay!
You'll be able to buy a new time machine or whatever, your next item that you can buy. So I guess that because
it does require a little bit of training to do, because your natural instinct will be, okay, I'm just going to wait here, and then when it happens, bam, I'll get it as soon as possible.
Yeah. But I like that because sometimes video games are just complete time sucks.
Yes.
And it's just, okay, you just spend all your time doing...
Where did those 8 hours go?
Yeah. I mean, Minecraft is. But Minecraft has a couple of AFK stuff on it. Like if you build a machine that does stuff while you're AFK.
Mob grinder, piston farm.
Yeah, you can do other things. Is that a good? Yeah, I guess it's another way to play games. Is in between, you fit it into other things. It's kind of actually useful for time management.
I won't lie though, I have caught myself with 3 tabs. I'll be playing Marvel Avenger Alliance on Facebook on one, and then I'll have Cookie Clicker in another tab, and then I'll have Hero Clicker in a third.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, okay, cycle through 1, 2, 3, and then I leave myself over on the Marvel gameplay, a little bit of that, and then cycle through again. And it's like, wow, I'm playing 3 games at once. That's either amazingly efficient or horrible use of my time.
Yeah, I feel like I think our brains and our computers and sort of the interface between them often has like excess capacity, or it's like, well, what can I do while I'm waiting for this thing, or what can I do? Or I've just finished this. I need a spacer between.
Mental break to cleanse the palate.
Yeah.
Click some cookies. Yeah.
I think that's the future of video games. They fit in the spaces in life.
Which I guess is what they were always supposed to be. It's like, yeah, you got some downtime here. Play some Pac-Man. Yeah. And then look where it got us. With Warcraft movies.
So Cookie Clicker, and I played a bit. I also played Minecraft. Not a ton. And our new comedy club opened in Victoria, so I spent some time down at Yuck Yucks. The brand new, brand new. Well, I mean, it's an old building, but they remodeled it and everything. It's.
Did you take pictures? Because keep in mind, it'll never be as good or as clean as that moment.
I didn't actually take pictures, but we have a photographer.
Did you go to the bathroom and take a photo?
I didn't.
Oh. Because I remember when the new location for the little Thai place opened up, and it was magnificent, it was beautiful. It still is. But I remember it's like, okay, make sure to wash my hands before I, eat any food, right? And I go into the bathroom and I realize this is a brand new bathroom. It's like effectively a public bathroom. There are going to be people coming in using the bathroom. A lot of people, because it's a business. This bathroom will never be as this pristine and immaculate as this point. It's all downhill for this poor bathroom from here on out.
I suppose, little by little, right?
A scratch here unintentionally, like somebody graffitiing something there. Cause,
bathrooms can be cleaned, obviously, they're designed for that, but yeah.
But anyone who's been into like a fast food or restaurant's bathroom will understand how bad things can get in them. Yeah. And it just suddenly occurred to me, it's like, this bathroom will never be as this pristine or beautiful ever again. The ravages of time and the horrible underbelly of humanity will slowly corrode it. And it's just like, oh, that's both amazing that I was able to see it at its best, and a little depressing that it'll never be that good again. So next time you're at Yuck Yucks, take a look at their pristine bathroom and lament the future that awaits it.
I don't feel the need to take a picture, but...
Well, in your maybe not an actual picture, but take a picture in your mind. Memorize that pristine bathroom. Yeah. You've been to the clubs downtown at some point, before.
Yeah.
They're horrible.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my
the bathrooms,
God, they're tragic. But at some point, they were as pristine as that fresh bathroom, man. Yeah. Something you notice as you get older. Sorry for that for the younger audience out there.
Okay. So I did that, and I played a bit more Minecraft. Not a lot of Minecraft. Just I added a couple of barns to my paint island, which is the base from which
the Isle of Paintings,
and make paintings out of maps. And I have a couple of sheep farms, cow farms now. So yeah, we're rocking and rolling in there.
Very nice. Hey, the maps don't automatically update, especially when they're put into picture frames, right? I don't think they do.
No, they won't.
So yeah, then you can just clean your palette, clean your canvas and start again.
Yeah.
As long as you don't accidentally look at your map once you've created it, sort of thing, it shouldn't auto-update. And I think as long as you're not in that area of the place when you're looking at your map, it should remain okay.
Yeah, so I'll have to do one or two over just to make sure I'm not in the same area, but yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Like Paint Island is in the center of this ocean, so...
Oh, very nice. In that case, yeah, you don't need a whole lot of space, just the one area of space.
I could do that, yeah.
Oh, dig it.
Yeah, and another thing I could do is I could make like a white background or any color background.
Underlay.
And put things on top of that, so I can have like little...
So you actually can't have like a blank canvas underneath.
Yeah.
Dig it. I like that.
Like that. Yeah, so that's all I've been up to, pretty
much. The big thing for me this week is I got to see another old movie that I'd never seen before, The Pillow of Death. It's the
Okay.
It's the final movie in the series for the Inner Sanctum movies that they did with Lon Chaney as the star. I did not like it.
Okay.
Well, I liked everything except the ending. I guess a bit of a spoiler. It's an old movie. No, I don't think it should count as a spoiler. Okay. The female lead winds up in a relationship just at the very final scene, man. And she absolutely hates this guy up until the very end. With the next door neighbor who is literally, I kid you not, and this is no hyperbole, a peeping Tom. He peeps in the windows. He illegally enters the house, the mansion, the Kincaid mansion, without their permission. He knows the secret doors and passages within, and he uses that to keep an eye on the lady. This is not a man who should, not only is it creepy, he winds up stealing a corpse from the mausoleum, and he stores it in the secret, passages of the mansion.
For what purpose?
To try and force the husband of the deceased lady into admitting that he killed her.
Okay, so it's kind of a good purpose.
No, it's a horrible purpose, man.
Bringing a man to justice?
There are other ways to get a man to justice. This was literally stealing a corpse. If this was 150 years earlier and over in London, that's a hanging. That's the sentence for stealing a corpse. For any reason, was, hanged by the neck until you're dead.
Yeah, corpse stealing?
Yeah, it has historically been taken very poorly.
Okay.
He does not get arrested. I mean, it's not like the lady's, corpse, just, disappears or anything like that. The detective knows about it by the end of it. Nothing. He's not going to jail. The maid is still there. She had plans earlier on in the film to she had two people locked into a linen closet. She was gonna run a gas hose underneath and gas them to death. She admitted it to them. She admitted it to a third person, who, by the way, saved their lives. Yay, congratulations, lives saved.
So she actually got as far as putting the hose under
She got the hose. The guy, the guy comes on in and is like, "What are you doing?" "I've got them trapped in the linen closet. Now is our chance to gas them to death." And he grabs the hose from her and he basically throws it down, and he goes up to unlock them because dude, she's gonna kill them. If he doesn't intervene now, there's gonna be 2 more dead bodies happening in this movie. And one of the people trapped in there is the new owner of the Kincaid Mansion. This lady is now working for her, and she has admitted to wanting to kill her. She doesn't get any jail time. She doesn't get fired. Nothing. And it's just like, wow, that is just such a depressing ending. Like, this lady is now in a house with her peeping Tom boyfriend, Creepola, who steals corpses on at least one occasion.
Are they, like, put forward, what, are they heroes in this movie? Like, or do we follow them, or are they sort of side characters?
They are secondary characters. The main character is the man who is accused of potentially killing his wife, the body that gets stolen, and the female lead who is his love interest and his legal secretary. He's a lawyer, so she's the secretary helping him out.
Now, would this be comparable to something like Home Alone, where the kid attempts to murder the...
No, because with the kid, Macaulay Culkin attempting to murder the home invaders is done on a comic level, like almost over the top. Oh, he stepped on a nail. Ha ha! Look at his face. Or, oh, there comes the paint. Bong! Oh, look at the mark on his forehead. Or, oh, he touched the red hot doorknob. Ha ha! Now he's got the letter imprinted on his palm. Ha 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 ha! It was done almost like a Looney Tunes style. Even though when it was translated out into the real world style, it actually does take on some creepy level implications, I won't lie. But no, this was played as this horrific and dangerous sort of thing. Like who is the murderer of the lady? No, maybe it's this, peeping Tom next door neighbor / wannabe boyfriend. No, it's not. His purpose was technically noble in intent. He wanted to protect the lady, despite her well wishes and without her permission to be on the property. Oh, guess they better become boyfriend-girlfriend at the end. It's just like, damn, man. I'd have been happier if she wound up becoming the significant other to the Detective McCracken in there, because by the end of the movie, he is the only character who is not either like a body thief, a con artist, or a potential killer of their own right. He is the last sane man in this case. Okay. But she doesn't wind up with him. She goes with the next door neighbor, because that's how things went back then. So
did he show an interest in her?
No, but that still would have been a better ending for her than, in a mansion with someone who wanted to kill her and the person who won't give her any personal space.
Yeah, but does she have other prospects? Like, is this sort of a
Wuthering
Heights type of deal?
No, her prospect was the man she's working for is gonna wind up talking with his wife and trying to get a divorce, and then maybe they can pursue a relationship. And then in the end, no, it's a no-go. He's dead, and all that sort of thing. And then it's like, oh, I guess I better, pursue a relationship with this next-door neighbor who's been creeping and following me and watching me while I was unawares. The man who's been sneaking through my house without permission.
Well, it just shows that he's concerned about her.
And it shows he's a horrible creep, man. This is just, ugh.
And also, he had a chance and he didn't do anything. Did he do anything bad to her? I don't know.
Not to her, but he did steal a corpse when he thought it might benefit him.
Yeah, I just can't find myself to, I'm not angry about people stealing corpses. I know it's against the law, so I suppose if I was a policeman, I would have to, I don't know.
But that's the thing. Apparently, the policeman doesn't care. It's like, okay, you better put that body back, young man. And it's just like wow, this lady is like, it's okay because she survives. Yay, hooray! You survived the end of a horror death movie, right? It's like the only people left in the house are certified creeps and wackos and potential killers. It's just she is just left in the middle of a very bad situation, and the fact if she had lived another year in that house before being killed somehow, I would have been amazingly surprised. Just because of who she surrounded herself with for company. But I am kind of happy with the last of the series in that regard, because of how unhappy I was with the ending.
Okay.
The rest of the movie is very well done, though. I quite liked it, how everything's set up. Just like too, there's I guess her love interest dies, so in the final scene she's got to have someone she likes, right? Got to get married. That's kind of how it goes, right? Got to pursue a boy.
Do they get married at the end of the show?
No, but it does indicate that they're in a relationship now. So,
okay.
Yeah. Oof, just seems weird though, because the guy is literally creeping around and watching her coming and going and getting into her house and all. It's that's a creepy dude.
Yeah.
Really creepy.
Okay.
But yeah, that's the big one to me. It's been a while since I saw a movie where I was that unhappy with the ending. Because by and large, good people survive, bad people survive, whatever. But this one was just like, you are like spelling your own death warrant here, lady. This is not going to end well for you.
You think he's going to kill her?
If he doesn't, the maid will.
Maybe there should have been another movie.
Maybe they should have just ended it better. Although I could see a sequel movie where it winds up being her dying and Detective McCracken has to figure out and then come to terms with the horrible situation he willingly left her in.
I mean, I don't know how to break this to you, Ryan, but sometimes people don't make the best choices when it comes to romantic partners.
But this is a classic old-fashioned sort of movie. You'd think they'd at least realize, it's like, well, she can't, pursue a relationship with the next-door neighbor because he's a freaking creep. Maybe she can, mention, I don't really feel safe around these people. My neighbor's still a creep, and the maid tried to kill me. And, the detective's like, well, maybe I can come on by and keep you company sometime. Oh, I like that, Detective McCracken. And then kind of like, oh, hey, there she is, like developing a romantic spark with the only man left in the series that isn't a con artist or a creep.
But here's the thing, though. This is set in what, the 50s, 40s?
Yeah, around that.
They did not have the internet back then. And I don't know if she had a phone, but also phoning people, you have to meet people to get their phone number and stuff. And as a woman, it's hard to put yourself out there. So. In some ways,
she could have gone to a social event or something like that. She doesn't just necessarily say, "Well, this prospective relationship dropped out. I guess I better find the next nearest, available man and grab onto his shoulder."
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's easier for us nowadays because we have things like Tinder and just instantly you can just go through a list of potential suitors.
Swipe left, swipe right. But here's the thing: is because of some of the other people dying in the movie, she is not only the inheritor of the Kincaid mansion and estate, she also has a sizable sum of money. There will be other suitors coming to come knocking on her door.
Okay.
So it's not as though she has to immediately find a man there. This is going to happen. But I would have been much happier if a spark, had been shown between her and the detective, because that way she's with someone who hasn't shown himself to be a horrible, creepy person. Although, admittedly, a detective is sometimes seen as a manipulative person in these sorts of movies. He has to try and force the murderer to show their hand or tip off some evidence, sort of thing. And, there's one scene where, the bereaved husband, sort of thing, is getting released from prison because the evidence they have him on is circumstantial. He's not gonna, as a lawyer, he's not gonna stand for that. He's like, are you gonna let me go, or am I gonna send my assistant back to write up a writ of habeas corpus? And it's all circumstantial. We're gonna let you go. And the one lady who says it's him, it's a guilty man, her the aunt of the female lead there. How dare you let this guilty man go? And she's like, well, all I have on him is circumstantial evidence. The same sort of circumstantial evidence I have against you right now. Would you like me to arrest you? And she's like, oh, I never. And he's like, oh, but don't leave town. I might have to come questioning you again. So he's antagonistic towards her to try and see how she reacts, to see maybe it was the aunt all along, sort of thing. She didn't like this affair potential thing that was happening between the man and the younger assistant, how he keeps her out late at night. What a undignified thing to do. And so it's maybe she killed the wife to try and get the guy out of the picture. Kill the wife, frame the husband, and all of a sudden, bam, there's no job for little Missy. She has to, come home at sundown. She can't stay out late. So, yeah, it was a potential for her being that. And the detective had to test her, had to do a little poking to see, how do you react if I accuse you, huh? So yeah, I could see him as maybe not being shown as the most sympathetic of characters. But he was the sanest of people in the entire movie, and there's something to be said about that, right? Besides, every once in a while, shouldn't the detective wind up with, a little bit of love too? Like, does the detective always have to be a hard-nosed detective? Can't he find a little bit of happiness in the movie?
I saw in some movies they do, don't they?
Not very often. From what I've seen for the old movies, is like the last one I've seen where the detective wound up getting potentially like any forward love action was he's questioning an artist in one thing and the model sort of thing. He was, I'm going to need to question you too, miss. And it winds up he's setting up for a date. They exchange phone numbers and all that sort of thing under the guise of I'm going to need to question you and I'm going to need to keep my eye on you. So well, how about keep my eye on me over dinner sometime? But she winds up getting her spine snapped by Rondo Howard, the monster without makeup. So yeah, things do not end well for him in his love life. But, it'd be kind of nice to see, because, they always portray these detectives as, although a little brusque and a little hard-nosed, and, because that's the way you have to be. They're dealing with some hard stuff here. That doesn't necessarily mean they can't find love, too. They're people, too, right? Yeah. So I just found a bit of a shame, because it's like, dude, there's a romantic interest over there. Don't go with creepy guy. Just shoo you over this way to the Detective McCracken. And admittedly, McCracken's a heck of a nice surname. That's a name you want for detective.
I don't know. Is it a name you want as a last name, though? Like, if she married him, she'd have...
she's known as, like, the latest of the Kincaids. They have a haunted mansion and are known for their crazy, eccentric spirituality beliefs, which is considered wacky even by the standards of the supernatural era of its time. So it's like, you could do worse than switch your name from Kincaid to McCracken. Or even, putting it together.
All right. Okay.
That said, I would have been happier if the detective's nickname had been Knuckles.
Kraken Knuckles?
Knuckles McCracken.
For our audio listeners, the sound you just heard was Ryan's knuckles cracking.
Yeah, that wasn't special effects or anything. My knuckles are cracktacular.
That was a real, genuine sound.
Yeah.
But yes, in the long run, I was just not satisfied with the ending.
Right.
So as I describe it to you, does it even sound like it would have been like a good movie? Does it sound like it had potential? Or does even like a person describing it make it sound, like a subpar movie?
It sounds okay to me, I guess. I know what you mean about like not liking what the characters end up doing. But I guess
because I did enjoy the movie. It's just I found the ending so dissatisfying. It wound up leaving like a sour taste in my, not even a good sour taste, like a good sour gumball you get at like a candy store. This is a bad sour, like the milk's gone bad.
Yeah, it's kind of depressing in the end a little bit.
It's just like you guys actually had some good steam built up. I kind of appreciate your third act twist, and a surprise ending, and then it's just like, whoa, what's she doing with this guy? And she's with the maid, and ugh.
So, I just have to take your word for it, I think, because I don't. Yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking, like, if I describe it to you, and then I mention the ending like that, and you don't, say that's a good ending, that's how it should end, then how did that ever get past like the executives? It's like, hey, yeah, by the way, maybe she should wind up with the creep in the end, and still be served by the maid who did, lock her into the linen closet and, make the attempt to gas her to death. Because that's the only 3 people in the mansion now. Well, aside from the ghost, it was like a haunted mansion, right?
Okay.
So yeah, the only 3 living people in the mansion at the end are, the creep, boyfriend, sort of thing, who sneaks around, the unlucky female lead, and the killer maid.
Yeah, well, it doesn't really.
Does not bode well for this poor young lady.
Without more information, I don't know how much it bothers me per se.
Just does it sound like if you were an executive, like a Hollywood exec, would you say yes, that is definitely how the movie should probably be ending?
Well, because Hollywood has its formulas and stuff. I guess it's like, we're supposed to have a love story in there, and
the innocent female lead should make sure she has love at the end of the movie.
I guess it breaks the formula in that she ends up with a weirdo, but what are you gonna do?
I'm wondering if it's just values dissonance. It's like, yes, it's okay that he was creeping around her house and even sneaking around through hidden passages and all that stuff because he loved her and he cared about her, and then it's okay because it's a forgivable thing.
Yeah, I feel like, just going by what you've said, that the writers intended sort of a little bit of misdirection there in that, oh, you're supposed to suspect that guy and think, oh, well, maybe he's like...
He did steal a corpse.
Yeah, so you're not supposed to trust him, and then it's supposed to be like a reveal that, oh, well, he's not so bad or something like that. I don't know.
Well, it's not like he was a horrible person. It's not like he was the murderer sort of thing, but like he was not granting, like personal, privacy to the lady in her own home. He was like, peeping, break and entry, and corpse stealing. So that's like three, like.
Yeah, but I'm not the police, so.
Apparently the police aren't the police either, because he never got arrested for any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Although the cop did catch him doing the peeping Tom sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he is known to the cops now.
Yeah. So maybe.
Just, my knowledge in this era of how things, go in that sort of relationship dynamic means I know things are quite unlikely to end as a fairy tale relationship for this poor young lady.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I don't know what's like how
maybe,
to end. What's a good ending?
Well, like I said, I'd be happier if she wound up with the cop. But maybe they were trying to aim for a thing like it's okay to have the killer made with them because this guy's always going to be watching her and he knows the secret passages. Therefore, the maid will never be able to kill them. So it's kind of like aiming your negatives at each other and hoping for a positive.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, she had a reason for wanting to kill people. I mean, not that it's ever okay to just kill people, but in theory, like that reason is gone now.
Yeah, but as soon as she's like, oh, you're a bad person, we're gonna gas you, just like you're gonna just like that innocent man's gonna be gassed in the chamber. At the time, the cops had arrested the psychic for suspicion of it. Although, by the way, he did realize it's like as soon as the third body showed up, I imagine you'd want to have seen me, so I decided to come and save you the trip. He actually went down to the police station to hand himself in, knowing that he would be the most likely suspect at that point. So, as much as I disliked him for his psychic fraud style, I do respect him as a person in that he turned himself in when he realized he'd be the main suspect, and he did save people's lives when he realized it's like, yeah, just gas the two of them, say it was like a horrible thing, and then I'm just washing my hands of that.
Right.
So there was some nice level of integrity there, but I still put him as lower ranking for potential a love interest for this lady than Officer McCracken, who was not a fraud. So yay.
All right.
But I don't know how that ending ever managed to make it through. A mystery for the ages.
Sure.
But I suppose that's about the end of our allotted time this week.
Yeah, we blew through it. Well, I guess we went through it at the same time as we always do, but yeah.
Well, it did seem to go by fairly quickly, I won't lie. Between Warcraft movies, and old movies. We seem to have talked up at least 90 minutes.
A lot about movies. So, listeners, if you want to participate, let me.
If you know why the ending for Pillow of Death ended that way, please let me know.
I'm sure. I don't think any of our listeners have seen Pillow of Death, but I guess maybe it's possible. So send us email. thesimulationist@gmail.com is our email address. Send all those thoughts to there. As long as you want to make those emails, I'll read them all. Also, you can comment on our Facebook page, facebook.com/thesimulationist, where everyone else will be able to see your comments. I think they show up on the left-hand side of the page there, but yeah, you can comment on the individual show posts.
The current style of Facebook should allow it to happen on the left-hand side, but knowing Facebook and how they do those random changes, this may become antiquated information.
I suppose, yeah, depending on what future, if you're listening to this in 100 years.
That must mean they were using the 2016 layout that changed and caused a lot of problems over in early 2017. Yes, they're really dating themselves here, says the historian of Facebook culture.
Well, anyways, if exists maybe some other popular forum on which you can discuss ancient podcasts in your time, perhaps you can hop on over there and do. I don't know why why I would mention this. It's not valuable to us because we won't. We'll be ancient,
be helpful people, though.
It'd be interesting though if we're 50 years down the line and somebody responds to something from back in this time era.
Yeah, well, better late than never. I'm okay with that.
So Facebook is a place you can, youtube.com/The Simulationist is our YouTube channel, where you can also comment in a similar way on each episode as it comes out. It's not a real video, it's just a picture with the same audio as all this, but yeah. So we're on YouTube, and I will see those if you send those. You can also tweet at me. I'm on Twitter at Josh_Treylaffin, that's TRESLAFFIN, Josh_Treylaffin on Twitter. And those are for short, you know how Twitter works, so short messages.
Unless you're from 50 years in the future where Twitter has become a bygone relic of the past.
That's a good point. I'm also on Instagram, too. I think I'm the same handle as, I'll have to double check. You can check our show notes. Our show notes are on blogspot.com/The Simulationist. Is that right? Yeah. And also there's Libsyn, which has a way to access our show notes, but yeah, I'll let you figure out how to. Basically, you can Google us and do it that way.
50 years in the future, instead of sending out a tweet, you just send a mimetic, wordless thought. That's all that's permitted for the Neo Twitter.
Imagine emoji only Twitter.
Yeah, that could be pretty bad. I'm thinking more just like a concept, not like meme as in here's a funny image, everyone's changing up. I mean just like. You send out just the one basic unit of thought at a person. And then, provided they're part of the same meld as you, they receive it. And they receive this perfect wordless image and concept or mental just one mental construct. It is in a way that cannot be properly described with words in its perfection. Because it's just the one and there it goes.
That reminds me. I forgot to share my my weird thought. I guess it sort of fits into conspiracy, but it's not really conspiracy. It's just Josh's deep thought. If I can cap off the episode.
Yes, I think that would be a great final thought in that case.
It occurred to me.
Thinking.
I think that human beings are like the animal version of the singularity. And if you understand the singularity, it's the point at which technology goes so fast that we, from our current vantage point in time, we cannot see where it's going anymore. It's over a horizon, or it's beyond a singularity where it expands so fast that we can't.
Infinite novelty in that it's newness rather than novelty. It's that was humorous.
And it's something like artificial intelligence goes to the point where it can replicate itself and control the world, so it basically takes over from humans. So yeah, the animal equivalent is just when humans came on the scene, and we came up with basically language, which allowed us to do technology, and then that sort of was beyond what any animal could.
Genetically, we are the same as like the Stone Age caveman. It's just we've become so much more thanks to better thinking processes.
Yeah.
In which case, that must seem really weird for an animal. I mean, like they're the same as they always were, but now they're different somehow.
Yeah. Well, and I guess our language and our ability to process language, that is pretty much the same as cavemen. Those are technically humans, whatever you want to,
There's
Homo
no genetic
erectus or whatever.
difference between us and the Stone Age caveman.
I think our brains might be a tiny bit bigger, and
that is
at some point we acquire
a better
language.
Diet during the developmental stages.
Yeah, and whenever it is that we discover language, that's, I think, where we cross over this singularity point where it's like, oh, now we have the potential to just expand sort of beyond.
Which is interesting, because it's just like, to an animal sort of thing, it's like they start making all sorts of different noises. It's like they're making all the different noises at once, and then that leads to everything. And so for us, will that mean that the singularity for us wind up being just some sort of weird little simple thing, like the technology is somehow able to you can fold it around to assume all the different shapes, and then bam, that just leads itself to the singularity, and thus we never realize exactly how important that one transcendent thing was.
Well, I wonder, it might just be something, the fact that we can break everything into binary, into digital bits, is a similar, like the entire universe we are able to encode in language because we acquired language. So in the same way, the entire universe can now be encoded in off or on. So I think that's a similar.
So what you're saying is like the animal singularity has happened, and that's us.
Yeah.
And now our singularity is already happening because we have the binary, and now it's just achieving its full potential.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of time.
I dig it. I'm living in part of the new singularity. It's not like infinite quickness singularity, but it happens.
I think
Language didn't suddenly make us all smart. We didn't go from like a caveman, all the way up to Renaissance in a single generation.
Yeah.
So okay. I can dig it then.
So yeah.
That is a deep thought, and I think that's a nice way to leave everyone thinking.
All right, and by the way, next week will not be. These podcasts come out early Monday mornings every week, but it'll be probably early Wednesday morning next week. So that's, I guess, 8-9 days from now.
Dig it.
All right, I've been Joshua Levin.
I've been Ryan Kirk.
It's in mind.